So it would appear that an Oblivion remake slash remaster is in the works from Bethesda. It's been pretty much confirmed through a few YouTubers, a few leaked documents, and now a few articles have picked up on it too. The main leak is when Xbox was going through the FTC court case and they had that massive leak. On this document that is on screen, they listed every upcoming title from Bethesda Studios, and in general, it's been pretty much spot on, and right there you can see not just an Oblivion remaster, but also a Fallout 3 remaster, which is something I'll discuss at another time. Today is all about Oblivion. There was also an article from Insider Gaming which stated that an Oblivion remake could be coming as soon as next month. So, all sources are pointing to this being a real thing, and that Oblivion will once again be reappearing in our lives. This is probably exciting news for most people, as Oblivion is notoriously known as one of Bethesda's best entries to date. Despite it being such a great game, the game has started to look a bit dated overall, and I've always wondered if they would ever get around to giving it a fresh coat of paint. When you think about how many times they've remastered slash re-released Skyrim, it seems absurd that they've never done this for Oblivion. Skyrim was one of the great RPGs of our time, but Oblivion is right up there too. Anyway, if this is true, what does it mean for the fan-made mod Skyblivion, which is an entire remake of Oblivion within the Skyrim engine? So if this Oblivion remake arrives as we suspect, what does it mean for that giant-sized mod? Well, let's get into it and answer the question, is the Oblivion remaster bad news for Skyblivion? Quick side note, if you're new here and you love discussing video games, please consider subscribing. Okay, let's get straight into it. So first of all, let's just recap what Oblivion was. Oblivion released in 2006, and it was the fourth installment in the Elder Scrolls main series, coming straight after Morrowind. The game released for Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3, as well as PC. After the hugely successful Morrowind, Bethesda had a lot to live up to, but on the whole, they managed to do it. Oblivion built upon the foundation of Morrowind with significant advancements in its graphics, gameplay, accessibility, and the overall immersion. The game introduced a fully realised, more diverse open world with detailed forests, rolling hills, and even realistic weather effects. The game was based in Cyrodiil, and the map was much larger than the previous game, and it was more handcrafted. NPCs had daily schedules, they would eat, sleep, work. Combat was more action-oriented, with real-time blocking and a more dynamic feeling compared to Morrowind's dice roll-based mechanics. Nearly every NPC in Oblivion was voice-acted, by about 4 people, compared to Morrowind's written dialogue. So while Oblivion made the series more accessible, and it was visually more impressive, some fans of Morrowind felt that it sacrificed depth and complexity, especially in areas like lore, faction mechanics, and world building. But that being said, the game did very well. It sold over 9.5 million copies compared to Morrowind's 4 million, and it scored an 8.7 on Metacritic. Essentially, Morrowind was Bethesda's big break into the console genre, but Oblivion was the game that established them as a AAA studio, or up to that standard. For its time, the game was above most open worlds and offered so much to do. Fans hold the game very close to their hearts. The game after this was Skyrim, which shows how far it pushed Bethesda along. Now, I played this game in 2006 and I was blown away. I replayed it recently again and it definitely looks dated. The NPCs look the most dated and its combat is very simplistic. One of the biggest problems for its time was its glitches. In fact, there are so many compilations of NPC glitches for Oblivion that you've got to go check them out. They have me dying laughing. The game lacked a lot of polish. It was bare bones, but at that time in 2006, it was one of the only giant open world games available, so a lot of gamers just sort of accepted it. Like, a giant open world game means you're going to get many glitches. Like, no problem, we can deal with that. Nowadays, that doesn't fly. The quest lines were enjoyable, especially the Dark Brotherhood story, but it lacked a lot of what you would expect from a game today. There was no sprint button, you had to pause to change your gear, there was no hotkeys, the dungeons were incredibly similar to one another and they all sort of looked the same. I guess what I'm trying to say is in 2006 this game was amazing. If it released today, in 2024, it wouldn't get as good reviews. For these reasons, a remaster seems like a necessity. People who game today would struggle to play this game now. It would appear too dated and they would struggle to commit to it. The new generation of gamers would most likely still be able to play Skyrim, but Oblivion is just one step too far. If Bethesda wants to introduce this game to the new generation of gamers, a remaster does seem important. And I'm sure that's why they're actually doing this. They would want many people to experience the magic of this game without having to settle on the older graphics. So we expect to see the game drop early next year, according to the sources. I'll discuss that shortly, but now we need to talk about Skyblivion. Now, for people not in the know, Skyblivion is the entirety of the Oblivion game remade in the engine for Skyrim with modern graphics. This mod is currently on screen and you can see how amazing it looks. So this is a fan-made mod. What that means is it's made by a group of volunteers who spend countless hours, years, building this game from scratch, for free. Their website summarizes it here. Skyblivion is a volunteer-based project by the TES Renewal Modding Group. We aim to bring the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion to a new generation of gamers and reintroduce it to longtime fans of the series. We're currently in the process of remaking Cyrodiil along with all of its quests, locations and characters into Skyrim Special Edition. Skyblivion will be 100% free. The development of Skyblivion started in 2012, and the team over there have been working on this expansion for over 12 years. The amount of work this must have taken is insane. I've been following along with bated breath for every update that they've released. Based on the gameplay that they've shown, it is incredible what they've managed to do. They've handcrafted every single cell. They've added every single quest and they've remade everything. They have even redone the dungeons and handcrafted all of those as well. Remember I said that the dungeons in Oblivion were quite repetitive? Well, the team at Skyblivion have handcrafted each one to ensure that they're unique. So not only have they dedicated 12 years to this mod, not only are they doing it for free, not only are they completely rebuilding the game from scratch, but they're also adding and improving on it. Like, that is so impressive. I've put a link to their socials and website in the description and I highly recommend that you check it out. Many people are excited for this free update. Now, look at their website. Started 2012. Release 2025. Wait, that's crazy because according to the news we just received, the Oblivion Remaster is coming 2025 too. Wow, what a crazy coincidence. So what does all of this mean? Well, first of all, to talk about the Oblivion Remaster from Bethesda. Whether it is a remake or a remaster is not yet confirmed. A remake is what Skyblivion are doing. They're rebuilding the entire game. The Silent Hill 2 remake, that's a remake. It's not the old game, it's completely built from scratch. Now, Skyrim Special Edition, that's a remaster. It's the same game, completely plays exactly how it did, but the graphics have been touched up only. Same as the GTA trilogy. We all thought that we would get a remake of those beloved classics, but what we got was just a remaster. It was the same game, just with a fresh coat of paint, although I would argue that it looked worse. Those games played exactly the same as they did when they originally came out in 2005. They just had a few tweaks to look a little prettier. So, there is a huge difference in a remaster and a remake. So how does this new Oblivion rework affect Skyblivion? Well, it depends on whether Bethesda are doing a remake or a remaster. If it is a remake from the ground up, it's gonna impact Skyblivion directly. They would basically be competing directly with Bethesda, but naturally Bethesda would hold all the power in that fight. They could release it for consoles, which Skyblivion can't. They can market it more aggressively. It's directly from Bethesda. It would mean that some people would turn to the Oblivion remake instead of playing the Skyblivion mod. It would be quite upsetting for Skyblivion, I would think. That would be a massive shame if that happened. I remember I did a video on Fallout London here, and I called it, Did Bethesda Sabotage Fallout London? Fallout London was another giant free fan-made mod, but it was made for Fallout 4. It was actually as big as the base game of Fallout 4. That's how big that expansion was. Now, Fallout London had been promoting their release date of April 23rd, 2024, which was St. George's Day in England, for a long time, but unfortunately Bethesda announced on the 11th of April, so right before London dropped, that they would be releasing a next-gen update for Fallout 4 on the 25th of April. With this announcement, it became quite obvious to the lead developer at Fallout London, Dean Carter, that the game would need to await the update and then they'd have to plan to release it afterwards. It even went to the BBC, where Dean Carter explained how the team would have to wait for the next gen update to arrive, then they'd have to make the fixes, then the fixes for them, and so on. It just meant that the date they'd planned on had to be completely scrapped. So this had a huge impact on the mod, as Bethesda impacted their release date. By the way, if you haven't played Fallout London, I highly recommend it. Check out the video I did on that here, as I explain in more detail about that there. But anyway, the timing for that seems suspicious, and the fact Bethesda are planning to release an Oblivion Remake around the same time as Skyblivion is going to drop. Now, I know there'll be people in the comments saying, well, it's just a coincidence, they're not really bothered, Bethesda don't care, but I don't know. I remember how crushed the Fallout London team were back then. I wonder how moods are in the Skyblivion camp at this current moment. But it's good to know Bethesda do love their modding community. Okay, anyway. My thought though is that the team at Skyblivion don't need to worry, and I'll tell you why. Just to confirm, this is my personal hypothesis, so none of this is confirmed, but according to that leaked document, it's entitled Oblivion Remaster. So, I suspect the game will be exactly the same as it was in 2006, but just with enhanced graphics. I don't expect them to rework the dungeons or handcraft the content. I generally think this will just be a newer looking version of the original game. In other words, I expect this to be the equivalent of the GTA Trilogy remaster that we saw from Rockstar. My reasoning, well, besides the document saying remaster, is that Bethesda have never remade any of their older games. Look at Skyrim. It's been remastered so many times I've lost count. Graphics have been updated, fan-made mods have been added, but it's never been remade by Bethesda. They just keep releasing the same game with enhanced graphics. I doubt they'll change their pattern now. I suspect that this will be the same as the Skyrim Special Edition. Same Oblivion, just a fresher coat of paint. That would match Bethesda's track record. A remake would be an anomaly for them. But also, they haven't really had the time to be making a remake this whole time. Their whole team has been working on Starfield and Fallout 76. They don't really seem to have the manpower to have been building a whole new game on the side. And then finally, if they were doing remakes, Morrowind would probably have been mentioned. So, they announced a remaster of Fallout 3 and Oblivion. And do you know why? Because they're easy to bring up to date. They just need a bit of a cleanup, but those games are still playable today. They look a bit dated, but it's doable. My wife started gaming in 2016. She played Oblivion and Fallout 3. She didn't think they were amazing because she's playing games from 2024, but she was able to stick to it. Morrowind? Well, that game is extremely dated. No voice acting, no quest markers, no map. It is extremely different from what we expect from a game nowadays. The gap between that game's release back in 2002 and gaming expectations of today, it's too big a bridge to gap. The game is great, but if you give it to a newer generation of gamers, they're going to give up after about 10 minutes. It looks so dated, and God knows people don't read anymore. Okay, so back to my point. If they were remaking games, why not remake Morrowind as well? That would make sense. But if you were just going to do a remaster and dress the game up a little bit, well, you could do that for Oblivion and Fallout 3 quite easily. But could you do it for Morrowind? Not really. It needs a remake, not a remaster. And it is for that reason that Morrowind is not mentioned, because I suspect they're working on a remaster for Oblivion as opposed to a remake. By the way, I would love to be wrong, and I would love for them to drop a 5-star current gen version of Oblivion with today's graphics, but I just know Bethesda. If Todd does that, I will apologise, but I suspect we're looking at a remaster as opposed to a remake. So, in other words, I don't think Skyblivion have much to worry about. Their game looks incredible and the graphics are so good. It provides something unique. It's a remake of Skyblivion in a Skyrim engine with today's graphics. It is the only game that offers that. If Bethesda releases a remake also, it would compete with that for the same spot. But if Bethesda were just to release a remaster, then it would pose very little threat to the Skyblivion team. So I personally don't think they have too much to worry about. Anyway, that's pretty much it for this one. I'm going to do another video on the Oblivion Remaster once we receive more concrete information, but for now it's mostly just hearsay without a specific confirmation on a release date or anything. Now as for Skyblivion, that is 100% confirmed and you should definitely check out their project as it looks absolutely incredible and it is going to be completely free. But what do you guys think? Do you think that the new Oblivion will be a remake or a remaster? Do you have high hopes for it? Or are you more looking forward to Skyblivion? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a like. If you're new here, please consider subscribing. I'm Av Gaming, where we do video game analysis, identifying what makes great games great and what could make good games great as well. Thanks for watching. Av out.